Hello, and welcome to the Social and Emotional Development webinar presented by StarNet Region 6. I am Ron Gonser, a consultant with StarNet Region 6. My background is in social work and education. Prior to my work as a consultant, I had various experiences working in mental health, at an alternative school, and I ended my full-time career as a principal of a pre-K through 5th grade building. Please take a moment to look over the DEC recommended practices so you can understand what this webinar will cover in regards to recommended practices. Next, I'm going to speak to the social emotional milestones. Social emotional milestones focus on children's developing abilities to regulate their attention, emotions, and behavior, and to form positive relationships with adults and peers. It's important to remember that individual differences exist when it comes to the exact age at which children may meet these milestones. Milestones are not checklists with which to judge the children's development. Rather, they provide a guide for when to expect certain skills or behaviors to emerge in young children, so you are prepared to meet their changing needs. Think of these milestones as guidelines to help you understand and identify typical patterns of growth and development in preschoolers. Although the skills often will develop in a predictable sequence over the preschool years, each child is unique in when they will master each skill. Your goal is to help all children grow and learn to their potential. Here are some typical milestones for kids ages 3 to 5 by age, according to the Early Stages website. At age 3, children will often play make-believe with dolls, animals, and other people. They often will copy adults and friends. They notice other children and join them in play. Children at age 3 will also be able to show affection for friends without prompting. They may even show concern for a crying friend. They will show a wide range of emotions. Often they will be able to calm down within 10 minutes after a situation where maybe you have left the room. They may get upset with major changes in routine. And at age 4, they start getting interested in new experiences. They pretend to be something else during play, for instance, a teacher, a dog, or even a superhero. Make-believe play is more creative and complex at age 4. They are more able to dress and undress themselves. At age 4, kids would rather play with other children than alone. They can name 2 or more friends. They're more able to comfort others who are hurt or sad. At age 4, they can cooperate with other children more successfully. And at age 4, they talk about what they like and what they are interested in. They often can tell what's real and what's make-believe. At age 4, kids often like to be a helper, and behavior changes are based on where they are. Avoiding danger, like not jumping from tall heights on the playground, starts to increase. At age 5, kids will want to please other friends. They want to be like friends. They more are able to follow rules when playing games with others. At age 5, they're more able to take turns when playing games with other children. And age 5, you can see that they like to sing, dance, and act. At age 5, they're also more aware of gender differences. They can tell what's real and what's make-believe. They show more independence. And age 5, they are more able to do simple chores and can tell you their first and last name and age. It's also important to be aware that expectations about developmental milestones are driven by cultural values and preferences. For example, in some cultures, children are not expected to feed themselves independently until they are ages 3 or 4. In other cultures, children are expected to start eating independently in early infancy and toddlerhood. Know that as adults, we share our cultural values and beliefs with children through daily interactions. Ideas, beliefs, and expectations about child development. Becoming aware of and respecting these differences can help you better understand how families' experiences help shape the preschoolers in your classroom. Take a moment to review this slide. Specifically, understand that social emotional learning involves emotional awareness, self-regulating, positive relationships, social awareness, and empathy. Social emotional development is essential to a young child's sense of well-being. Take another moment and think about some of the children in your own life and in your classroom and the different social emotional skills they display even when they are at the same age. According to the Committee for Children, preschool age children are learning to talk about their feelings and the feelings of others. Social emotional development, however, involves more than just expressing emotions. It involves taking turns, becoming independent and following routines, interacting more with peers, engaging in meaningful relationships with others, controlling emotions, and developing a positive self-image. These skills are crucial for children's successful participation in school and home experiences and for their overall growth. What is self-awareness? Simply put, it's becoming aware of oneself. Take a moment and review this slide on why self-awareness is important. During their first 5 years, children will develop social skills linked to their sense of self, their interactions with other children, and their understanding of how other people behave. Emphasis is often placed on getting along with others or compromising when working as a group and the skills of sharing or turn taking. It is important your child holds on to their sense of self throughout this process. Developing self-confidence and self-awareness enables children to develop healthy relationships, express their emotions and desires, and become resilient, self-confident learners. According to the website My First 5 Years, here are some benefits of self-awareness. 1. Higher levels of emotional intelligence. 2. The ability to empathize and be more compassionate and kind. 3. Better communication and listening skills. 4. Critical thinking skills. 5. The ability to make better decisions. 6. Stronger relationships. And 7. Better leadership skills. Take a moment and look at the slides in regards to ways kids learn self-awareness skills. Kids can learn self-awareness skills through many methods. And according to the Social Emotional Teacher website, there are a number that as a classroom teacher or a paraprofessional you can support the students doing. For instance, students will learn from you and other important adults in their lives. So it's important that you are a good example. It's important that they learn how to express feelings in appropriate ways by practicing. It's important that they become effective problem solvers. Help children problem solve and see both sides of a situation by giving practice skills in regards to what they would do in a certain situation. It's also important that they become empathetic towards others and become aware of others' feelings. So when an opportunity arises, make sure you're able to help them point out how someone else may be feeling in a situation where there's either some crying, anger, or whatever the situation may be. It's also important to ask children how things are going so they can reflect on how their day is going or in a certain situation, how they are feeling. This will all help them become more self-aware of their emotions and overall how other people feel and see their own emotions. Let's look a little deeper and closer on some of the methods that children can learn self-awareness. Number one was learning from you. It's important to remember that pre-K students do not always have the vocabulary to accurately identify their emotions. It is important to provide them with vocabulary for different emotions and teach them what different emotions feel like. When students can identify their emotions, they can think about what causes them to feel that way. Name the feelings that you are experiencing and talk about why you are feeling them. Students, especially the younger ones, need this modeling to build the skills in themselves. It also creates awareness that everyone feels emotions and makes you more relatable to your students. Model feeling big and small emotions and talk about the difference between the two. Learning how to express feelings is very important. And one way we can help students do that is to understand the difference between you statements and I statements. It's important that we emphasize more I statements than you statements, because as we know, you statements tend to be very accusatory and look at blaming others. When you start a sentence with you, you're implying that the other person is responsible for something. When someone feels accused of something, their natural reaction is to become defensive and resentful. Therefore, any further communication after you statement is usually defensive rather than productive. It's very important that we help students start to express their feelings through an I statement rather than a you statement. And let's go through this process. Let's take a closer look on using an I statement. An I statement, as you can see on this slide, has three parts: the feeling, the trigger, and the need. And according to the educational webpage, The Empowering Educator, it is an important aspect that we are always teaching and modeling I statements for kids. It is critical to creating a safe learning environment. I statements help students learn how to frame their thoughts and ideas. The goal is to focus solely on what kids are feeling and not what someone else may or not be feeling, thinking, or doing. In addition, clear communication helps to build strong connections to develop among students and between adults and students. The I statement empowers kids with choices over their emotions by giving them choices about their words. So again, let's look at this slide. The feeling. This is the emotion that the child is currently feeling. The trigger. We need to figure out what caused that feeling. And that's important for the child to be able to express. And then the need. This is what the child needs in order to feel better. And we need to help them think about this and clarify what they need to have happen. This is an important aspect for us as educators with preschoolers. Self-management is another important aspect of social emotional development, and it's important that we help students understand the aspects of self-management. And simply, part of self-management is learning acceptable behavior, and that happens throughout the day, and we are a big part of that learning process. And according to the Center on Social Emotional Foundations for Early Learning, it is important to help your students learn what is expected of them by giving clear directions. For example, instead of saying, please clean up the toys, say, please put the toy trucks into the red bin and the books on the shelf. By explaining exactly what your students should do, you're giving them concrete examples of what you expect. Clean up your toys can mean different things to different children. And if students don't understand yet what that means for your classroom, it can be confusing and lead to frustration for both you and the student. Next, let's look at the importance of routines in the overall development of social emotional feelings and growth for children in your classroom. According to the Center for Social Emotional Foundations for Early Learning, routines should support children's developing abilities to do things on their own, but should not be too complicated for preschoolers to learn and remember. The challenge is to develop appropriate daily routines for children which offer them a sense of consistency and security, yet remain flexible and responsive to the individual needs of each child. That's an important aspect to remember. Each child. An organized and welcoming classroom is not only the foundation for quality teaching, but it also helps shape and define positive student behavior. Studies have documented that schedules and routines influence children's emotional, cognitive, and social development. For example, predictable and consistent schedules in preschool classrooms help children feel secure and comfortable. Also, schedules and routines help children understand the expectations of the environment and reduce the frequency of behavior problems, such as tantrums and acts of aggression. Activity schedules that give children choices, balanced and planned activities, for instance, small versus large groups, quiet time versus active times, teacher-directed versus child-directed, indoor versus outdoor, and individualized activities result in a higher rate of child engagement. As part of any day with routines, there's also transitions between routines and activities. And the Center on Social Emotional Foundations speaks to transitions as well. The students won't know what is expected if they don't get a chance to practice. Start by explaining a specific routine. After you explain the routine, do a demonstration yourself so the kids see the routine. Give the students a chance to practice the routine so they remember it. The beginning of the school year is the critical time period for teaching and reinforcing the routine behaviors you expect from your pre-K students. Transition times are important because they can make the day seem smooth and well organized, or rushed and unpleasant. Allowing enough time so children make the transition gradually is the best way to avoid stressful situations. In addition to allowing a realistic amount of time for transitions to take place, it always helps to warn once in advance before a change in activities start. This gives the children a chance to finish what they are doing, and their cooperation is more likely. It might also help move the process along if we comment favorably about the next activity and avoid situations where all the children are expected to do the same thing at the same time. It's important to keep in mind that routines that require interaction between teacher and student or among students also serve to positively reinforce interpersonal communication and social skills. When setting routines and boundaries, bear in mind that children's behavior is communication. And according to Kaplan Early Learning Center, routines are good for children, and here are some examples. Routines help children feel secure and comfortable. They help children understand the expectations of the environment. Routines can decrease power struggles. Routines help kids cooperate. Kids learn the concept of looking forward to things they enjoy, and regular routines help kids get on a schedule. Another aspect of social and emotional development is learning about consequences and responsibility. And according to the Child Development Institute, before your students can learn how to be responsible, they need to understand what responsibility is. To help teach your students this important skill, the students need to understand the meaning of responsibility. Discuss the meaning of it, as well as what responsibility might look like and sound like in real life situations. Another way for kids to learn responsibility is to have them act out different scenarios. Responsibilities can take many different forms, and it's important that the children understand this. You can help guide students during these role play scenarios, helping them understand the true meaning of responsibility in all types of situations. Responsible decision making is also another aspect of social and emotional development for kids. And according to the Child Mind Institute, many children make decisions based on emotions or the spur of the moment. It's a life skill to learn how to make thoughtful choices. It needs to be practiced and taught. Responsible decision making is so important because it fosters the ability to make positive choices about how we behave. Students being able to solve their own problems also gives them confidence and fosters independence. In addition, them being able to solve their own problems supports the belief that they can do difficult things, which is called self-efficiency. Students will be on the path to success by being able to solve their own problems and make responsible decisions as they continue to grow with social emotional development. Now let's take a look at 3 ways children often make decisions. 3 common ways are no decision, snap decisions, and responsible decisions. In the next few slides, I'll be talking about each of those specific decisions. Look at that slide in regards to no decision. Many times this happens because children are afraid they will make the wrong decision. They doubt themselves and look to others to decide for them. Kids who fall into the no decision category need to be reminded that it's okay to make mistakes. Making mistakes provides an opportunity for learning and growth. Sometimes we all make snap decisions, and this is especially for students. Generally speaking, making a choice between 2 food groups don't require to weigh the pros and cons. It's not a decision that you have to think through in depth. However, it's not a good idea to make a snap decision about crossing a busy street. Safety and hurting others is something kids need to learn about and consider before making a decision. Kids prone to making snap decisions benefit from learning to stop and think before taking an action. And this is something that can be practiced throughout the day if you are becoming aware of students who make snap decisions. Your goal is to help kids learn how to make responsible decisions. And this is an important aspect for children's social emotional growth and development. It's important that children learn to make responsible decisions on their own, but sometimes they will need guidance from trusted adults to make good choices. And some of the things that you can do to help with this is to articulate differences and connections when a child is making a decision or problem solving. Make sure that you identify any emotions behind certain actions that they are thinking about. Make sure you help them to brainstorm different approaches or solutions to a specific task or situation. Also, help them to understand the consequence of each of their decisions. This will help them to learn how to make better decisions in the future. You can also, of course, model and articulate your own decision-making process out loud, and this gives them opportunities to hear different ways that adults may solve a problem. It's also important to help them understand past experiences. Remind them of the decision they made yesterday, and if they're in the same situation today, what other choices do they have? Help them understand that there may be different perspectives and decisions they can make. And then finally, help them understand what happens once they make that decision. Are they satisfied with that decision? Let, let them look at it and help them evaluate if they're satisfied with the decision that they made. Let's look at relationship skills as it relates to social and emotional development. Learning to successfully interact with others is one of the most important aspects of child social emotional development. And according to NACI, it is important to remember to keep a child's stages of peer interaction in mind. As was mentioned earlier in this webinar, preschoolers typically move from parallel play, in which the child might be playing alongside or near a peer, but not with them, to associated play, where 2 or more children are playing in the same space and sharing some play items. The child should then move on to cooperative or group play, where the child plays together with other children and needs to communicate, cooperate, take turns, wait, and share. Based on a child's experience with others, these stages will vary among students. Just as I mentioned earlier regarding the ages of social emotional development, not everything will happen at age 3, 4, or 5 as indicated. It all comes in different stages depending on the specific child. The use of play to develop social skills is a very important aspect of any preschooler's day. It's important to remember that play is children's work And dramatic play has the added benefit of allowing children to experiment with and understand social roles. So it's important that we look at the aspects of children beginning to be able to play games where they learn turn taking and sharing, as well as how to adhere to the rules. What children learn through these playful interactions is manyfold, according to the Encyclopedia of Early Development. They are beginning to learn to interpret others' perspectives, to regulate their responses and interactions. They learn how to manage impulse control, increase both their ability to wait and demonstrate patience, as well as their ability to share an object or event. Being able to follow rules and manage your emotions is tough for young children, and it's always our learning process. Make sure you support your students as you play games together and as you notice them interacting with others during social interaction and playtime. Play is different for everyone. For some people, creating art is play. For others, it's climbing rocks. For others, it's just pretending to be someone who they aren't really. There are many different ways to play. It's not just building blocks or playing with Legos. Play is essential for children. More and more research confirms the importance of play and why it should be an integral part of a child's life. According to the importance of play in promoting healthy child development and maintaining strong parent-child and teacher-child bonds, free play allows children to practice decision-making skills, learn to work with others in groups, share, resolve conflicts, and advocate for themselves. It also allows them to discover what they enjoy at their own pace. As children develop and grow, so does their way of playing. Let's take a brief look at how play develops and changes over time for children. Let's look at the aspect of solitary play. This is when children start to play on their own. Solitary play begins in infancy and is common in toddlers. However, all age groups can and should have some time for independent play. When engaged in solitary play, children do not seem to notice other kids sitting or playing nearby during this type of play. Then there's the onlooker play. The next stage of play is when children watch others play. Onlooker play happens most frequently during the toddler years, but can occur at any age. The onlooker may ask questions of other children, but there's no effort to join the play. This may happen when a child is shy or unsure of the rules or is hesitant to join the game. Then we look at parallel play. Parallel play starts when children begin to play side by side with other children without any interaction. Parallel play is usually found with toddlers, although it happens at any age group, so keep that in mind. Even though it seems like they are not interacting, they are paying attention to each other. This is the beginning of wanting to play with other children their age. This stage lays the groundwork for the later stages of play. Associative play is when child will start interacting more with the other child they are playing with. This is the next stage of play called associative play. At around 3 to 4 years of age, they become more interested in other children than toys. They start asking questions and talking about the toys and what they are making. This is the beginning of really understanding how to get along with others. Then, let's look at social play. This is when children will begin to socialize starting around 3 or 4. But again, it's not always at that exact stage. They begin to share ideas and toys and follow established rules and guidelines. They play to shop and figure out who will play what role. They can work together to build something or maybe play a simple game together. This is really where a child learns and practices social skills like cooperating, being flexible, taking turns, and solving problems. Now let's look at the important task as a preschool educator and what role you should be playing in helping students develop their social and emotional skills. It's important that you understand developmental milestones, as this is an important aspect of working with young children. Learning and understanding how preschoolers develop social-emotional skills and competency will help you foster their social-emotional learning and determine what kinds of experiences to plan in your classroom and your program. Consider the following in your daily work with preschoolers. Be responsive to children's attempts at interaction and build on what children say. Engage in frequent, developmentally appropriate social interactions with children and adults in your classroom throughout your daily experiences and routines. Follow each child's leads, cues, and preferences. Make sure you include emotional words in conversations with children so they start to develop a vocabulary of emotional feelings. Make sure you have books available that discuss feelings and social interactions. Make sure you ask children meaningful questions about their actions, interests, events, and feelings. Encourage children to use their words and talk to their peers when conflicts arise. Use developmentally appropriate language and provide conversation models and cues for children to follow if they need help solving a problem. Ensure you are sensitive to children's unique needs, experiences, and backgrounds. Reach out to children's families and be responsive to their beliefs and preferences. Let me now summarize the importance of a variety of things in regards to the overall social and emotional development of preschoolers. Number one, relationships are central to children's development because relationships enable children to safely explore their surroundings and learn how to be members of their social and cultural worlds. It is through relationships that children learn appropriate ways of responding to emotions and expressing their own feelings. Relationships in the preschool years help children learn to play, interact with others, and develop friendships. As preschoolers become more self-aware, they improve their ability to control their bodies during different activities throughout the day and engage in appropriate behaviors with their peers. Throughout the day, preschoolers would display a variety of emotions in different ways. Whether they are using verbal communication or facial cues, they are constantly improving their ability to manage and control their emotions. It is important that children are provided with opportunities to practice a variety of skills to become more independent. So, remember to provide support to promote sharing and taking turns with materials. Encourage children to use their words and to talk with friends to solve problems. Make sure you model developmentally appropriate language to help children deal with conflict or solve problems with each other. Try to incorporate children's interests and preferences into the classroom experiences and routines. Address the needs of all children in the classroom by using social studies or scripts for children who may have a hard time sharing materials with peers. Using an individual visual schedule for children who may need support during transitions. Encourage children to express their thoughts and share their feelings about events or situations. Make sure you always validate children's feelings and thoughts. And keep in mind that each child is unique and that social emotional development varies across children. Your goal should always center on helping all children grow to their potential. Thank you for listening. You'll find some resources at the end of this, and I hope you are able to get some information that will provide you with better skills as you work with children in your classroom. Thanks again.